Hey, happy Sunday, or anything else in between. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I hope everyone is having a either beautiful start to the morning or fantastic finish to the weekend. And this is going to be a podcast that I have done a lot of prep work for, and I really do think it is going to help a couple of people shift their mindset, which is always the idea of the podcast. If you don't do anything as a result of listening to this stuff, then it's just kind of noise, okay? When it comes to podcasting, when it comes to books, when it comes to watching YouTube videos, you gotta do something as a result of listening. Do one thing. Take out of this podcast just one thing and implement this today as quickly as possible. If you do that, every time you read a book or listen to a podcast episode or watch a YouTube video, you make progress. Wow, look at this. 17 people already in the podcast. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start this episode in 1.5 minutes. Hello, Kenny boy. How are you, my legend? What a beautiful new photo you got there, mate. Love it with the puppy. Good morning. Good morning, Xanth. How are you? Good morning, Davey boy. Mate, I'm getting excited. We've got, nearly a month, Dave, till it's game time. Are you still coming down, Dave, for the marathon weekend? Hopefully, brother. Would love to see you. Shawnee, what's going on, pal? I hope you're well. Maddie, I'm going to whisper in your ear, but I'm not going to tell anyone else. I'd really love to see you in the retreat, mate, and I've got no idea why you're not coming. Anyway, I'll leave that for you, Maddie. Nikki friend, what's going on? Good morning, buddy. Hello, Warren Todd. How are you? If I'm not mentioning your name, I'm not being rude, guys. It's because we haven't authorized StreamYard. Good morning, Burns. How are you, girl? I hope you're well. Hey. Wow, look at this crew. 24 people coming in to watch this one live. This is great. Guys, we're going to start in 30 seconds. I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Good morning, Loz. Good morning, Jan. Hello, Mikey boy. What's it like up there in the north of Canada, Mike? It is absolutely boiling here today, which is something that we don't say very often in Canada. So, dude, I hope you're getting some sunshine up there. All right, guys, let's get started. Another episode of the podcast on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. Of course, this is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the relationship with your ex. And we're going to start that in a moment. A few things I do want to quickly do is I want to congratulate 4 amazing men of our academy. Actually, I'm going to make it 5. Steve Byron, Clint Guyett, Nikki Friend, Terry Holden, and Kev Grant on their performances over the weekend. Guys, just incredible. Well done. Super proud of you and proud to have you guys as members of our academy. I also want to welcome all of our new people into the academy. We've got a bunch of new people that joined over the last week, so hope you're enjoying your time. Get involved in these podcasts. I want to show some gratitude. Thank you so much for everyone that bought merchandise, BBA merchandise. This was by far and away the biggest order that we have ever done. And so I made the purchase last night of the blanks so that we can go to work on production, and I'll have them for you freshly packed in a suitcase in attendance with me when I land on the 13th of September. And finally, to anyone that missed it over the weekend inside of our client group, we did with Coach Troy a deadlift masterclass. It was really good and I think quite beneficial to those that watched it. So make sure you try to catch up over that over the next couple of weeks. All right, guys. So today, topic I want to discuss: the relationship with your ex. And in this case, we're talking not about your ex-wife, ex-husband. We're talking about exercise. I think a really mature discussion around this topic is due. I want to explain the reason why I think it's due, because I believe that there are a couple of big picture problems that I see creeping in for most people. And unless they've actually thought about their relationship with exercise, these problems can end up being the reason that they fall away. They drop off their journey altogether. So let me ask you a question. How many of you listening live or on replay, how many of you have tried to become consistent about exercise, but for whatever reason, I don't know, like something, you just can't stick it? I believe personally that it's the nature of your exercise, of your relationship with exercise, that's the problem. the way you interact with exercise, the way you think about exercise is different to the way I think about exercise, and therefore maybe not sustainable for you. It's the same reason your relationship with other things in your life can deteriorate. So for example, if you interact with alcohol in a bad way, then you develop a long-term poor relationship with alcohol, right? If you interact with food in a bad way, you develop a long-term poor relationship with food. If you interact with the people in your life the wrong way, you develop a long-term poor relationship with your friends, family, and others. And I believe exercise is no different. If you see exercise in the wrong light and you've got a poor relationship to it, it'll eventually break down. You won't do it anymore. And as always, the idea of this podcast is get you to bring some awareness to how you interact with exercise or do not, so that you can try to improve it. I was thinking about this morning, guys. I think people are operating in one of two extremes. At one end is the people that don't exercise or that kind of completely resent it. They do it begrudgingly or not at all. And at the other end are people that abuse exercise and use it as a form of punishment or escapism that doesn't really make them feel better over the long term. And some of these people obviously jump from one to the other. And in either case, the relationship with exercise is dysfunctional, and if it's not addressed, it'll lead to you falling off. So what I want to do is address these two camps, because if you're in one of these camps, or if you've not been able to make exercise a habit that you've embodied, I think this is going to shine a light on perhaps why. So first we're going to start with the first one that I mentioned, the non-exercisers or the I have to exercise but I kind of resent it group first. I believe that the reason that most people cannot become consistent is because they actually fail to recognize the amazing diverse benefits that regular embodied exercisers know so well. And there are going to be a bunch of you that are going to start nodding through this podcast. These people start exercise for the wrong reasons. For those of you that do exercise, can I ask you, what is the reason that you're actually doing it? Feel free to let me know in the comments. What is the reason that you're actually doing the exercise? Like, what's the honest reason? When you be honest, what's the reason? 80% of you will say something that is one-dimensionally the aesthetic component, right? It's either I want to lose weight or I want to gain muscle. And that's the answer. For example, I want to lose 20 kilos by summer. 20% of you or less will associate exercise with something far more wide-reaching and multidimensional than just weight loss. Here is the problem with exercising for weight loss. Let's say everything works out, guys, and you lose the 20 kilograms that you started exercising for. So you lose the 20 kilograms. What happens next? Why would you continue to do it if you're now at your goal weight? The goal of you starting the exercise and continuing to engage in the exercise is for you to hit the 20 kilos weight loss. But once that's been hit, then based on your reasons for exercising in the first place, there's not much drive to continue, right? I've said it a million times before. Weight loss is not the hard part. It's not. Anyone can lose weight. Just starve yourself. It's pretty simple. Not regaining the weight is the challenge. And unless you begin changing your relationship with exercise, it's likely going to come back. This is one of the reasons why we see people yo-yoing in weight over the course of a lifetime. The problem is also true of a person that exercises exclusively for the aesthetic goal of muscle gain. You need an extreme amount of patience if you want to exercise exclusively for muscle gain, because it can get really boring because it takes a long time to build muscle. This is, again, why so many people don't get the body that they actually want. Their relationship with exercise is flawed and eventually breaks down. So what of these 20% of people, what are these guys doing differently? Now, I want you to give yourself a silent head nod and a bit of gratitude right now if you are in that 20% and you know you're in the 20%, by the way. You know it already. You know if you're in the 80%. And hopefully this podcast's help. These are the guys and girls that don't see exercise exclusively as a way to attain an aesthetic benefit. In fact, for many of them, the aesthetic outcome of more muscle and less fat is more a side effect rather than the predominant outcome. You know this if you're in this group. You have exercised, it's integrated in your life. You don't see it as a thing that you have to do, almost like a chore or a punishment. So the difference between the 20% and the 80% is a mindset. The 20% exercise because they know how much more in control of the life they are when they are exercising. They know how much better a partner or parent they are when they are exercising, which is why they can prioritize it above other things. They feel more life energy when they're exercising. Their confidence, self-image is simply better when they're exercising. This is a big one. Their overall pain has reduced. They will often have niggling injuries, but the injuries that are associated with being old and decrepit, like lower back pain from sitting all day, they disappear. They perform better at work when they're exercising. They get less sick and recover well because of the exercise benefits on their immune system. They recognize how different their sleep is now that they're exercising. For me, I notice this like tremendously. I sleep like a baby angel. They often feel more sexually alive in their relationship. They handle stress better when they're exercising. Exercising gives them the push to do hard things. I'll never forget the time that Nick Duggan told me that the reason he goes to the gym is because when he does something hard, it gives him the confidence to do other hard things. And they know that their overall mental health and life is better as a result of their exercising. Now, I know that there's a bunch of people that are listening to this podcast now that aren't there yet and that are thinking to themselves, why am I listening to this podcast? This sounds a little bit fanciful. And that's exactly the point. I know that Nick Friend and Ashley Sonta are not thinking that. If those two people are watching, can you please confirm that I am correct? I'm not being critical, but those people are the ones that haven't embodied exercise. They've always tried to do it for the fat loss benefits, and that's the reason it hasn't stuck. And if that's you, I want you to acknowledge it so that we can change it. Let me give you some more thinking around this. Do you think your relationship with exercise would be different if it was built around these non-aesthetic benefits? Do you think it would be different? And by the way, Ashley says 100%. To use an analogy, it's like being in a relationship just for the sex. If you were with a complete asshole that's just really good in bed, is that relationship likely to last very long? No, because there's nothing substantial about it. Transfer that logic. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having good sex, by the way. Actually, it's really good. But transfer that logic over to a relationship with exercise. If you're just exercising to achieve an aesthetic goal, it's going to be really motivating at the start. But when the honeymoon period passes, it drops off. Is this a penny drop for anyone? When you think of your relationship with exercise, like your relationship perhaps like you were when you were 20 years old and you had a fling, it's cheap, it's nasty maybe. The only way you're going to improve your relationship with exercise is if you stay in the relationship long enough that you're giving yourself time to realize the other qualities that exercise actually has. This is why people that join our academy lose 20 kilograms and then say, well, I've hit my goal, it's time to leave, always end up putting the weight back on. The goal was never, or should never have been, to lose weight. That was a side project. The goal was to change your lifestyle so that it gave you this multitude of additional benefits, and so you never ever went back to your old self. And this takes time. Who of you have tried to get your partner started on their journey? In preparation of this podcast, something has dawned on me right here. I'm just going to read out Luke's comment, by the way. I would exercise regardless, but I find I like the science. It's almost like a hobby. Yeah, 100% Lukey. This is the penny drop. I want to ask you a question. For those of you that have tried to get your partner started on their own journey, are you trying to start your partner because you lost weight? Or is it overall because you feel amazing as a result of working on yourself and you want to transfer that feeling to them? I'd say in 90% of cases, it's the latter. You want to work out. You want them to feel how you now feel. And with that in mind, do you think it's possible that the reason your partner is not taking up your encouragement to start exercising is because they are only thinking about the one-dimensional aesthetic benefits and fat loss, right? And you encouraging them to get started is almost like you pointing out how fat they are. Like, I don't know, for me, this is like a huge thing. You're not pointing, you know that you're not telling them they're fat. The reason that you're pointing out to them that they should get started in their journey is because of how good you feel, right? But because of the conditioning of society, the one-dimensional exercise equals fat loss thing, all they pick up is, well, I'm not really motivated enough to lose fat. But if you serve them a platter of how good you feel, the strength you have, the improvement in your confidence, the fact that your complete perspective on life changes, the fact that they are wrestling to get to sleep and you're already snoring, the disappearance of your back pain, the fact that you feel overall more driven. Perhaps if you spoke to your partner about the non-aesthetic benefits over time, not that they should do it, but that this is what you're feeling, maybe the penny would eventually drop with them, because you're not confronting them with fat loss. Does this make sense? You're talking about how good you feel. Now, at the other end of the exercise continuum are the people that abuse exercise as a form of punishment. Now, this is a really interesting take on this, for not being good enough. This type of abusive relationship is actually extremely prevalent in people in the fitness industry, trainers and coaches. It is absolutely true that many of the people that get into health and fitness, you would know some of them, do so because of their own insecurities. This is not a criticism, by the way, this is an observation. Transforming your body is an incredible way to direct your anger, your emotion, your low self-esteem, your feelings of worthlessness. And in a lot of cases, it's completely transparent to me that some girls and guys will go to extremes, like abusing steroids at a really high level, in order to them to be able to milk the feelings of worthiness and attention to the nth degree. In fact, I saw this in my university degree. A good portion, I was in a class for 4 years with me and 30 girls, right? A good portion of the women I studied with had extremely poor relationships with food. By the way, as a dietitian, so you can imagine that it's predominantly, well, all women plus me, poor relationship with food, poor relationship with their body. And so studying to be a dietitian was something that helped them. Yet from the outside, I was thinking to myself, how are they going to transfer this relationship to their clients one day? This is my whole issue with the fitness industry. There are a lot of people out there that have extremely bad relationships with their body, exercise, and food, giving blanket recommendations to the general population who don't know any better and just see their Instagram and go, fuck, I want that. It scares me, actually. Promoting getting like completely shredded or losing fat quickly is really not the advice that should be being given to most general population people. That's not what they need to hear. In fact, what they need to know is that understanding that losing and managing weight is pretty sustainable if done in the right way with consistent behaviors. You don't need to live in a gym. You don't need to avoid all bad food. That's just not realistic advice. So moving off these coaches and trainers, some of us get started in a fitness or health transformation because we're trying to escape some pain or trauma in our life. Examples of this could be we were teased as a kid for being overweight, right through to I was molested and needed to do this as a form of self-protection or dealing with trauma. I'd say that exercise is far better therapy than alcohol, drugs, or hurting or harming yourself or potentially others. And firstly, if you've got into exercise because of those reasons, you should be congratulated and celebrated because this is a much better way to deal with things and it requires a lot of self-awareness. But dealing with these traumas can take decades of work and might need to involve other health professionals. But there's a difference between exercise being therapeutic and positively beneficial and exercise being this tool of escape, numbing the pain, running away from what you're feeling. They're two very different things. And the reason it's important to make these distinctions is because if you think that you need to go and beat yourself up in the gym in order to feel good, that will eventually stop working. If the only way you feel good is if you're crawling out by your lips, you're sore for days, you're chronically tired, and you need to go home after every workout and have a sleep, that's just not sustainable. This can be, for some people, a form of self-punishment for not being worthy enough, or just so you can actually feel something other than the numbness. Kind of like a person or a kid that cuts themselves just to feel something. It could also be that you're using exercise as a form of distraction. Because when you exercise constantly and brutally, you don't have to spend time thinking about your own shit that you don't want to deal with. So in this light, it's a form of escapism. If you're going down that route, there's going to be injury, overtraining, and whilst it might work when you're young, eventually you're going to reach an age where you can't sustain that level of training, and then you've lost the only tool that you've become dependent on, then you're fucked. A good, healthy relationship with exercise, a therapeutic one, brings to the surface struggles so that you can deal with them. It doesn't bury them. A good therapeutic relationship with exercise is not a punishment. It's a way to care for yourself. It's a form of self-love, not a form of self-hatred. So if you're someone that trains every day, is that too much? Not necessarily, depending on your relationship with exercise. The answer would be, if you're moderating the intensity and you're not the walking wounded after every workout and you can have a day off without feeling like a failure, then training every day is completely fine. I heard a really great way to think about regulating exercise intensity. Identify the person that you care for most in the world and ask yourself, how would I train that person today if that person were me right now? This will help you to show a little bit of care for yourself. This idea of no pain, no gain is fucking annoying. It's like so not true. Sometimes you're going to go well. Sometimes just getting to the gym and doing 10 minutes of workouts is going to be a win. There's no doubt that training in a gym, for example, gives us a sense of confidence. But if that confidence is only built upon you looking a certain way, then you're setting yourself up for a pretty hard fall, a pretty hard midlife crisis, right? When these aesthetics are more difficult to remain. And again, this points back to recognizing the full spectrum of benefits that exercise provides and doing it for those reasons and letting the aesthetics be the side benefit. Guys, I'm going to finish off with this podcast when this is a great comment by Luke. What happens when you get injured and can't train? Next step is substance. So freaking true. So I'm just going to leave you with 3 frameworks which I hope land after we've gone through these kind of polls. For most people, it's going to be the first one we talked about. I do exercise because I have to type thing. For a smaller few, it's going to be the other end. But I want to give you 3 simple frameworks. Okay, and this is the practical part. Framework number 1, you get to exercise. You don't have to. No one is holding a gun to your head. You live in a free country. Anything you do is by your own choice, and understanding that you have a choice and you choose to exercise off your own free will put you in a very powerful position. And guess what? I guarantee that every one of us talking here today that got in a car accident tomorrow and lost both of our legs will all of a sudden change their perspective around the ability to move, starting to see it as an opportunity. So the first mindset or framework is you get to exercise. No one's forcing you to do it. You get to do it. It's an opportunity. Framework number 2. If you've got a good relationship with exercise, when the scales don't move, that doesn't mean you're not progressing. If you have a great relationship with exercise, you've conditioned yourself to look at the non-aesthetic indicators of performance. And I know a lot of you in our academy, when we talk about non-scale victories, you think that that's some trick that you've got to play on your mind. Be honest if that's you. It's not a fucking mind trick. It's not a mind trick. It's the truth. For me, exercising is imperative. It is imperative if I want to perform. If I want to feel confident. If I want to be a good dad. If I want to show up to my partner. If I want to have any heartbeat of libido at all. If I'm not exercising, all that drops away. You don't reduce the work you put into exercise down to either I lost weight or I didn't lose weight. I lost weight and I won. I didn't lose weight, so I failed. That one-dimensional thinking is just, to be honest, it's dumb, it's boring, and we need to move away from it. I want you to answer right now. This is for everyone. This is for everyone. Are you sleeping better than you were before now that you're exercising? Is your confidence a little bit higher? Do you feel slightly more in control of your life? Slightly. Have any of your pains disappeared? If so, do you value these things? Well, if you say you value them when they're not connected to exercise, well then connect them to exercise. You can't say you value these things, being able to walk, waking up in the morning and having no back pain. You can't say you value these things, having good quality sleep, feeling recharged. You can't say you value these things and then look at a set of scales and go, oh, I'm a failure. This isn't working. That's fucking ludicrous. Framework 3, and the final framework, is if you're not trying to get to a destination, you're becoming something. If all you do is lose 20 kilograms and don't worry about the mindset and the lifestyle shift that's taking place at all, if that's all you want to do, just don't eat. It's very simple. You don't need a meal plan. You don't need to pay for your membership here. Just don't eat. That's simpler. But I guess if you've been one of the people that have listened to this episode to this point, that's not you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight or gain muscle. You absolutely should want to do that. But if you only change for a short period what you do, instead of changing permanently who you are, then expect to regain the weight. Because all you've done is just used your willpower for a little bit of time to just hold back from doing something. Nothing changed. This is about changing in here and in here. Those of you that desire a complete lifestyle transformation understand that there is no end game to this. There's no destination, actually. Once you get there, you look to the next thing and then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's an infinite game. Because only once you realize what you're capable of when you sleep better, when you're less reactive as a dad or a mum, when you have more energy, when you believe in yourself more, when you're more confident, That's when you start playing the infinite game. It's like being on a PlayStation with infinite levels. You don't just play for the outcome to win, you play for the game. We're going to finish the episode there, guys. Take a moment to dwell on what we've discussed. Ask yourself, what's your relationship like with exercise? And sometimes just shining a light on this this can be like a massive penny drop moment for a number of people. To think something simple like, that's the fucking problem. I'm reducing it down to being something I have to do every day so I lose weight, and I've lost the true value of the process here. Does this make sense, guys? This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming to you on a Monday morning or a Sunday afternoon for you. No diets, no stupid unsustainable plans. We'll see you in the next episode. Guys, if you want to stick around, I'm happy to discuss. I'm going to read a couple of comments here. Yes to all. Sometimes the exercise brings on niggles, as you said. There is not a person in the world that I know over the age of 40 that doesn't have niggles from exercise. That's par of the course. But do you want little niggles in your shoulder, or do you want a chronic back pain associated with you trying to counterbalance your belly? Like, which one do you want? Like, injuries are par of the course. They're going to happen. And it's really frustrating. No doubt at all. No doubt at all. But we find a way to work around them. We do some rehab with them. We try to get them right. We take some time off if we need to. But we don't, chuck the baby out with the bathwater. Luke said, and possibly settle into the squads. Yeah, change the mental environment. Luke, this is accurate because of the fact that you become the product of the people that you hang around. This is it. I can't actually tell who this is, again, because we haven't got the authorization here, the link for Restream, but you have just explained my long history of yo-yo dieting, light bulb pog. So this is great. So whoever this is, congratulations. I'm glad it helped, and this is reason enough to do the podcast. So it's like, okay, now that I recognize that, what do you do about that? Well, you start working on your relationship. What people say, yeah, but what do I do about that now? Okay, well, let's pretend you're married. Let's not complicate this. Let's pretend you're married and your relationship is lacking some substance, or it's got some niggles in it, like injuries. Well, what do? Option one is you run from it, you hide from it, you go under the blankets and you say, nah, not me, not dealing with this today. Option two is you talk about it. You make changes to your behavior. So as an example, let's just say for a lot of people, long history of yo-yo dieting, this is associated with yo-yo diet extremes, right? It's like binge bust, right? I'm going all out on food, then I feel shit, so I'll restrict. Then I feel hungry, so I'll binge. Then I feel like I'm getting fat, so I restrict. What we'd be much better doing is, and I'm simplifying the process, but what we'd be much better doing is understanding that no one has a gun to your head. This is about you. And actually, you'd probably be better, rather than just dropping really low calories, if you know you've got a challenging relationship with food, what you'd be better to do is just back away from the great restriction and instead ask yourself, well, look, how can I make a few changes here? And 2 changes simply come to mind. I'm going to get rid of the liquid calories. And I don't even mean alcohol. I just mean drinking fruit juices, sodas. Simple thing to get rid of, right? We get rid of those. Guess what? Don't change anything else at the start. You'll start to lose weight because you're cutting out a huge source of the calories. The other thing you would do is start trying to take up more unprocessed foods. If it's in a packet, eat less of that. If it's not in a packet, eat more of that. Pretty simple rules here. When it comes to exercise, how do you improve your relationship? Well, stop trying to overcommit. If you're saying right now, given it's a Monday morning or a Sunday afternoon, if you're saying to yourself, right, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days this week, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days this week, and it's been 10 years since you've strung together 5 days in the gym, like, why are you setting yourself up for a feeling of like crush? You will get these benefits that we've talked about of 2 to 3 exercise sessions a week. And if you want to improve that over time, great. But then go back and enjoy your life after you've done the exercise. Like, it doesn't, and you think to yourself, well, how much is that going to help? Just do it for 4 to 6 weeks and have a look. Be your own lab rat and watch what happens. 4 to 6 weeks of training 2 to 3 times per week, getting your step count up a little bit, watch what happens. Like, you'll be monumentally different. But in the process, something about you will change. Now, pitch for what we do in our academy is that trying to do this on your own is just really difficult. It is. The reason is because you haven't got the environment to support the changes that you're trying to make. You go home, you tell your husband how excited you are about changing your habits. He says, fuck, I'm not actually listening to this because I'm too worried about my own shit. Plus then he looks down and he can't even see his dick because his belly's in the way. He's got his own shit to worry about, right? This is why you have to get, whether it's BBA or whether it's something else in your own life, you have to get into a community. Because when you have those hard days and you're in a vacuum, it's very easy for you to make the reasoning that I've got to deal with, and so you drop through your own cracks, right? I've definitely found the benefit of the structure of doing 2 to 3 sessions rather than going all out. Yes, it was leaving me broken, needing weeks of recovery between attempts. You would be far better to, let's just say you were doing 2 to 3 workouts a week. You would be far better to not feel any ongoing soreness than feeling soreness. People think that they need to seek the soreness. It's a terrible indicator of progress. Not only because it means that you're less likely to do the thing next time round because you've been sore, it's taking a long time for you to recover, but actually soreness is not the best indicator. For example, you could get very, very sore by doing very slow negatives. One of the things that causes the most amount of soreness is doing very slow negatives. What do I mean by this? Let's pretend it's a bicep curl, okay? This is the positive, right? This is the negative. Now, this can be a very, very effective form of training, actually. But what I'm making the point is that this is one way to cause a lot of soreness. Make what's called the eccentric portion very, very slow. Why? Because you're contracting at the same time as you're lengthening, right? You're contracting at the same as you're lengthening. When you do this way, you're contracting at the same time as you're shortening. Think of your muscle fibers here. When you go this way, you're contracting at the same time as you're lengthening, which creates more of those tears, okay? But my point is that it might just be that you slowed down the negative a little bit more, and that was the cause of the soreness. That's not an indicator of your progress. An indication of your progress is your ability to stick to it. Are you seeing changes in your measurements? And then looking towards those other areas. For me, the greatest indicator of my progress relation to my gym efforts, what's my sleep like? Because it's literally 1 for 1. If I've trained that day, I sleep like an angel. If I've only done cardio or I've done nothing, I sleep terribly. Every single time, no exception. So do you think that I'm more likely to prescribe myself a workout if I know that I'm going to sleep better that night? Of course I am. In this way, exercise becomes therapeutic. It doesn't become something I have to do. I'm choosing to do it because it makes me feel better. Guys, still 20 of you sticking around, so I'm guessing this podcast probably hit somewhat, so hopefully it's been beneficial. We're going to leave it there. To all of you that are in our academy, have a beautiful, beautiful week. Please reach out to the coaches if you need any help. And just remember that coaching calls are on Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, men, Thursday, women, and then for the UK crew, a Wednesday in between. We'll put up the events inside the group. Have a beautiful morning, guys.